Hey tea heads, this is Don from Mayleaf. Look who has just arrived. El Gusherino, the Gushmeister, however you want to call it, Young Gushu 2023 is here. It has landed and I'm super excited to get stuck into my maiden session with this tea. This tea causes me so much stress and gives me so much joy in the year, and my first session with this tea sort of is a pivotal moment in the year. It represents the tail end of my spring sourcing endeavors and launches me into the rest of the year. So for those of you who don't know, every year we seek out a raw Gushu PuErh, so a raw sheng sun-dried green tea from Yunnan, made from ancient tea tree material that, yes, is delicious now and yes, will age beautifully into an amazing aged tea, but captures that certain something, that je ne sais quoi of drinking tea loose with the producers in Yunnan. And I have such special memories of visiting Yunnan and sitting with friends and new producers and farmers and drinking their freshly made sun-dried green tea, their freshly made sun-dried PuErh tea. And I always, it's such a precious memory for me that I always try to find every year that tea which just captures that essence. And what does that mean? Well, it's sort of ephemeral, it sort of changes, but it represents a very fresh tasting tea which has bags of character but maintains that bright, freshly made sun-dried taste. And of course, it will age, and of course, it will change, and that's the joy of it. It will change throughout the years, but now, drinking this right now, that is what gives me this feeling of excitement. So I'm going to crank up the temperature of the kettle to 95 degrees, and we're going to scope this tea. But first of all, I've got to measure out a nice hefty portion. And I'm going to go for, I reckon, somewhere in the region of about 6 to 7 grams. Closer to 7 maybe. Let's see how I do. I'm going to eyeball this a bit more. I reckon that's about 6.5. Ooh, 5.5. 6.8. We'll go with that. Let's take a look at these leaves and let's scope them. So this is season 28th of March 2023. This is the cultivar, the Daiyezhong variety, the big leaf variety. Estimated age of tea trees around 200 to 250-year-old tea trees. The origin, the all-important origin. Every year, people are obviously interested to know where we sourced our young Gushu. And this has been sourced from a new producer, new mountain for us. It's from the Zhong Shan, which basically means big middle mountain. And that's in Linsang, so further up north in Yunnan. Linsang, I think recently we've been buying a lot of young Gushu from Linsang. Linsang, I think it's quite near Bangdong, and which is a more famous mountain. So Zhong Shan in Linsang, Yunnan, China. Picking and processing is going to be the classic raw PuErh, which is picking, withering, shaching process, heating it in pans, rolling it and sun drying it. And we want to capture that taste of what it's like when it's fresh off that sun-dried pile. And the elevation is around 1,800 meters. So I've got close to 7 grams in here. We're going into our Temple Guy 1 because I really want to see these leaves. And I'm very, very excited and a little bit nervous. The thing about these young PuErh teas is that they're going to have edge, they're going to have a bit of, spice to them, they're going to have a bit of punch to them. So hopefully it's got enough mellowness to carry that balance in the tea. We shall see. Obviously, selecting it, we did love it. And as I said, it causes me a lot of stress because we're always tasting teas, and always the question in my home is continuously, is this a young Gushu? Is this the young Gushu? Is this the young Gushu? And we've selected some incredible raw PuErh to press into cakes. But as I said, there's a je ne sais quoi, there's a certain something where that fresh taste is just perfect right now. And we felt that this was the one. Zhong Shan Love this Temple Gaiwan for how it shows off those leaves. Let's take a look at the leaves. Sort of a seal, brown, green, khaki, a little bit darker than perhaps Young Gushu's in previous years, I think. And very sort of leaf heavy, not so much bud. Again, all I care about is the taste, but I noticed that it's a little bit more leaf heavy and a little bit darker. So the processing, you know, every producer has their own particular nuances with processing, and this looks like it's been potentially shachinged and oxidized a little bit more than the sort of standard, the profile, and maybe that's why I love this particular tea for Young Gushu. Okay, here we go. Sniff hard. Let's wake the brain up. It's time for us to dive in for the inaugural session of Young Gushu 2023. You can tell I'm excited, right? Here we go. Flower Central. Orchids. Let's start with orchids. It's got exactly that, the aromatic profile that I associate with drinking tea fresh with the farmers. Loads of flowers. You can sort of say orchids and jasmines. But then, of course, there's so much more going on. Take a look at those leaves here. You've got, what else? A freshness. Let's say talcum powder. Let's talk about, there's a bright, fresh note. I'll figure it out. But I'm also getting a spiced, starchy note. Not too much, but there's a spiced, warmer note. I'm going to associate it with cooked pumpkin, or no, pumpkin pie, the filling of a pumpkin pie, spiced and sweet and starchy, with the orchids and the jasmines and talc and a touch of slate, something a little bit mineral and stony in there. Oh, smells good. It smells extremely, it smells like it is got a lightness to it, but there's depth in that spiced pumpkin pie note that I think is going to be the sort of winning edge that turns this from just a young, delicious, young, floral Maocha into something much more memorable. And I can smell the spices coming off. There's a spice note coming here. Oh, it reminds me of dill seed oil, which is an ingredient in gripe water. I'm getting frangipani flowers, so orchids, but was the note on the dry leaf, but frangipani just a little bit brighter, a little bit more sort of orange blossomy and lemony, if you like. I'm also getting just the terroir, that deep forest note. So the slate that I was talking about before, now I'm imagining those rocks in a stream, deep in the forest. So I'm getting the smells of the woods. I'm getting the smell of the stone. I'm also picking up very herbal notes, like I talked about dill seed oil, but also thyme. But it's also very sweet. So I'm picking up like what I recall thyme honey to smell like. So it's sweet, it's sticky, and it's honeyed, but with those Mediterranean herbs as well. I'm also picking up some more tropical fruits as well. With those frangipanis, we're getting custard apples and some wet woods as well. So a whole mix of beautiful aromatics, but the overall character, I would say, is floral with this underbelly of sweet, wet woods, thyme, honey, herbal spiciness underneath there. Very, very nice. And that custard apple fruitiness too. Okay, let's check the temperature. 92, let's crank it up a little bit. Let's give the duckling first try. The rinse wasn't hot enough to change the color, but you're not going to get any more. Sorry, duckling. Okay, here we go. Already little hints of green popping out. Brew that for about 20 seconds or so. Give or take a minute, knowing me. No, I'll try to do this properly. And I'm going to go without filter. Ooh, color for a relatively short extraction, although I know a lot of people like to flash brew. That's a pretty vibrant sort of straw yellow color. Here we go. It all comes to this, the first sip of Young Gushu 2023. I will focus on texture first. Now, I will say that with young teas, I expect the texture to be slightly lighter when it ages, and as it sort of matures, it tends to become thicker. Oh, but this is nice. Medium thick. Medium thick. Vaporous. Very vaporous. Ooh. Oh, a lovely balance of softness, but then zing and tingle. So physical tea. I have a feeling that I'm going to keep the infusions relatively short because I can sense this. It's not bitter and it's got very little dryness, but this pulling sensation. So I want to tease that out and see how that develops. Taste is bomb. Frangipani, the custard apples are there. Oh, wow. It's great. I'm super, super happy. That spiciness that I was talking about before with the thyme honeys and the dill seed oil. I was going to say aloe, but that's too green. I think it has a fragrance about it. It reminds me of bison grass. It reminds me of that sweet, slightly anise quality of holy basil. So sweet, that plant sweetness. Oh, it is a delight to drink. It does capture the flowery freshness of a Gushu PuErh that's consumed with farmers directly after sun drying, but it has this spice running through it that is, I think, going to be its trademark and will develop through infusions and through the years. Aftertaste. I'm getting creamy fruits like papaya, like apricot. Papaya and apricot. Not so much of the woods now. Not so much of the foresty note. It's actually out in the orchards. So papaya, apricots, bison grass, holy basil, frangipani, lots of flowers, freesias, orchids, and a lovely, lovely finish that we'll talk about in a second. Ah, so happy. So happy. Although I was less worried this year than any other year because I remember tasting this tea and going, that's it, Young Gushu. It was a pretty instant decision. Take a look at those leaves, they're just opening up now. You can see they're getting quite green quite quickly. Second infusion. Okay, it's come to play. The wetwoods are there now, and I'm getting a distinct bittersweet transformation. What is the bitterness? It's like a fruity bitterness rather than a herbal bitterness. I'm trying to think of fruits that have that slight, like if you have like apple skins, or apple skins, or crab apple. It's got a zingy bitterness that then moves quite quickly into this combination of apricots, papaya, and tropical flowers like frangipani sweetness. Great little edge, a little shape to this, and for sure, brew short. This is a potent tea. I can feel the pulling on my tongue, not dry, but like almost like a tingly, prickly sensation on my tongue. So brew light. I think that I'm gonna brew maybe even flash brews with these teas. A great sign, and a great sign that this is gonna have some real aging potential as well. For sure. That's gonna age for sure. Right, so let's brew it up again. And we'll talk about the finish. I said, it's got like a tingly around the sides, slightly prickly on the top. Bitter to sweet. I'm gonna stick with papaya. You saw, what was that, about 15-second infusion? Sometimes when you're brewing raw PuErh, when you're on the third or fourth infusion, you're brewing 30 seconds, 40 seconds. Not this tea. Not this tea. This has got a physical power to it, and it's got a strong mouthfeel. Okay. Lost count. Third, fourth. Should have used my counter. Let's start now. Let's call it the fourth. It might have been the third. Yeah, that's the infusion. Just having it creep in and then transform. What else in terms of flavors? A little bit of that taffy candy. I would stay with apricot. In fact, actually, scratch that. Apricot petit filou yogurt. Yogurt. If you've ever had those little tubs that you have for kids, that apricot flavor is there. Not so much the sourness, but that apricot flavoring is there. The rockiness is still there as well. I would say, again, river rocks, river pebbles. I will also say that the body sensation in my stomach is starting to get quite gurgly and a little bit excitable, butterflies in the stomach. And that's not just because I'm excited about the tea. I think that it's also just the physical effect of this tea. Color and look of these leaves. The stems are fairly red, and the leaves are like a kiwi green color. Interesting. I think that there's a particular style of processing that's maybe not your. It's not a standard looking. It wasn't a standard looking dry leaf, and it's not a standard looking wet leaf. Not to say it looks particularly weird, but we're getting more of those red stems, and the contrast between the red stems and those bright green leaves. So I think there's the shaching process has been handled in a particular way, rightly, wrongly, doesn't really matter. It is just a delicious tea the way that it is, but given that little bit more of an oxidized taste within the stems while keeping the freshness in those leaves. All right, let's have a sniff of the empty Gongdaobei while my stomach does somersaults. Ooh, I was on the cusp of saying durian, but no. But that creaminess, we talked about custard apples before. There's a creaminess to this, but there's also that spice. And I'm going to say a very sweet turmeric latte with a little bit of the basier spicy notes of fenugreek. So fenugreek and turmeric latte and custard apples. All right, one more infusion before I leave you to roll through more. In fact, you know what? Water is nearly finished, so I'm gonna refill and I'll come back after I've done about 3 more infusions. 7th infusion here. A beautiful experience and plenty to give. Brew this in short steeps and you will be rewarded with the most amazing transformation from this flowery to this tiny little bitter hit to this incredible long-lasting golden apple sweetness. It's all about the apples and the crab apples in my mouth at the moment, combined with the freesias and the orchids and the frangipans. So it's fruity, floral, and then this little spicy edge just keeps on coming at you. It's like, like dill seed oil and fenugreek and a little bit of turmeric. And that turmeric sort of just edges towards the Alfonso mango territory, but just about. I'll put the picture in there, just about in there, that spicy, zingy Alfonso mango and turmeric flavor. Beautiful. And I love the look of these leaves. As I said before, you've got those very bright green combined with that red stem. It is a very good looking tea. For me, with this contrast, I know that probably some people go, oh no, you shouldn't have red stems. I have no problem with red stems if the tea tastes like this. And I think that that sweeter oxidized note gives it that apple skin, golden apple sweetness that I think is just glorious. Body sensation on this. The somersaults in my stomach started to rise up and they're in my head now. And it is a very cheeky headiness that I think is spot on for a young Gushu. I can imagine it being quite strong. I can feel myself getting a little tingly in the hands and ooh, a little bit shaky, but I know that I've just rinsed through 7 infusions at a very fast rate. You're going to be drinking this slower so you can sort of even it out, but it is strong. And again, flash brew it would be my suggestion, and then start to eke out, try to work out your particular sweet spot. I reckon, you can brew these at sort of 20-second infusions for at least 6 or 7 infusions before you start to clock up longer infusions. Just gorgeous. One last smell of the empty Gongdaobei. I am on cloud 9 with this tea. So happy. Yeah, I'll stick with the fenugreek and turmeric latte, but with a lot of deep honey in there as well. This tea has a beautiful brightness to it. It has a beautiful, uplifting, bright, fresh, floral, fruity quality. And then you've got the spice, the creams, and the minerals, and that little bitter to sweet transformation. Fabulous. That's it, tea heads. Check out other videos, taste our teas wherever you are in the world by browsing mayleaf.com, and come visit us if you're ever in London. Other than that, I'm Don from Mayleaf. Thank you for being a part of the revelation of true tea. Stay away from the tea bags and keep drinking the supreme stuff and spread the word, because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye.